Okay, Colleen, this is our third and final pre-observation. How's things going right now with Gregory?
Pretty good.
Yeah? Okay. Well, let's go over this. I know we talked about the fact that you actually had to recreate a lesson because you're doing something different than what you initially thought you were doing. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what your lesson is going to be about?
Well, today I started the text. I was a third grade spy, and you know, he was reading it. He really wanted to read it, so we talked about maybe him having had all this background and all these skills, if he could then apply them to a chapter book.
Okay.
So my initial plan was that I was going to, I was going to give him the sheet that said tricky words, so we would skim for tricky words, which I actually have been giving him those for word work and reading text, and that's been working great.
Okay.
So I realized that I cannot take that scaffold away yet. So I had to revisit that, what I'm going to do.
That's good though, that you realized that that's, you were very in tune to what he can do and what he can't do. So that was great.
The prediction is fine. He's good at making a prediction. During reading, we've been asking questions. He would read the whole chapter, had no questions. I even stopped him. Are you sure you don't have a question right now? Nope, I don't have a question. And he got to the end of the chapter, and we were talking about summarizing, and we were going to do this together and talk about it, but I realized very quickly that he really couldn't tell me anything, and the information he was giving me was incorrect.
So what did you gather then by doing this activity for the first thing that you were doing in this chapter? What did you gather?
That I need to definitely break it down a little bit.
Okay. What are some things that you were thinking about doing?
Well, I'm going to go back to doing the vocabulary the way I have for word work. I've been doing the vocabulary. I have a procedure for that, and that was working out really well. I was taking actually sentences from the text, and we were looking at those, so it kind of was setting him up a little bit for comprehension for the text. And then in reading connected text, I was either taking an excerpt from the text or creating a new one that either connected thematically or from the vocabulary words that gave him a little bit deeper understanding. Okay. So because I'm not doing nonfiction anymore, and this is, he really needs to develop some strengths in fiction text, I'm going to stick with it, even though I thought I was going to throw it out the window. Yeah. And I'm going to teach the vocabulary in context, out of context, to develop an understanding of all of it. And then for reading connected text, I'm going to use those words in a pre-made story by me, and have him read through it, and try to articulate the meaning of
Now, are you doing the word work prior to this?
Yes.
And then what's your expectation or hope with him utilizing the text that you give him and he's reading? What is your
I'm hoping that it deepens his understanding, but when I read, what I want to do is have you come in and see if I am scaffolding enough when we do the text, because that's all going to be done when you come in. I want you to come in for comprehension and see if I'm breaking it down enough, because what I'm going to do is what I was doing before. I thought I could pull the scaffold, but I can't yet.
That's what you said, and I think, like I said, you gauged him and you realized he can't, so yeah.
I'm going to put sticky notes and force him to stop and talk about it. And I was wondering if possibly having a question there that he has to answer from the text would be helpful. So
you are you gonna the sticky gonna have a question on there, or are you having him make up the question?
He was making up the question before, but I think in this I was considering making a question that will show me that he understands. And if he can't answer it, then I want him to understand what he has to do in order to be able to answer it. The text, I want him just to understand the text instead of running through it. I want him to stop. So, I guess I want you to see if I'm prompting him to go back properly. If there's another way I can do it. I really haven't come across this too much, where a child can decode and read everything in front of him, but can tell you nothing about the text.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a great mind. All the stuff we were doing in the picture books, but I was walking him through a lot of it, like page by page, and we were stopping and making connections, and he was, getting all of that after. But I was supporting him a lot, so I thought I could pull away, and I think I can.
But some,
but not that much. But also, I've raised the level of the text.
Yes, you have. I remember we just talked about that earlier. What during his testing, his pre-testing, what was his score with, if you remember, and if you don't, that's okay, with his comprehension questions?
On the third grade level, it was like 50%.
Okay, so third grade was 50. Okay. Is he instructional at second? Are you instructing at second?
Yeah.
Okay. I have the same one. Okay. Instructing at second. So what is possibly a strategy that you could use in this text to help him? Like, okay, so he reads this, you give him a question, he doesn't remember, because that's kind of par for his course from what you're saying to me. What's another strategy that you might be able to employ, or so that he can be successful?
Well, I guess before we encounter the text, I was going to say to him, if you're not understanding, what do good readers do? Because we've talked about that they go back and reread and everything, and I'm hoping that he'll see the question, and then if he can't answer it, go back, or maybe I can show him that he needs to have this. Do you think it would be better if he knows the question before he reads it?
There's two schools of thought. A lot of times I know they say for tests, they'll say, oh, don't let the kids read the question. I'm a fan personally of reading the question so that people, what the expectation is. So a student knowing the expectation to what to look for, especially with him, that very well may be helpful.
Yes.
So I think that idea that you're having is a good one. Let him see it so that he can, if he see, oh, okay, and then he can answer it and then continue on with the text, but at least then he knows it.
Okay. I almost feel like I need to stop page by page.
Okay.
Because.
And why would you want to do that? What would be the benefit?
Because I stopped him today when he was reading chapter 2 verbally, and I said to him, do you have any questions right now? Do you know what's going on? And he was like, yeah, but then when we got to the end and I said, can you summarize the chapter? He went right to the last thing and said, they're going to pay lots of money for him.
But that was the last thing.
It's just the last thing he read. Like, he just keeps...
Okay. Does he know he can look back in the text?
Well, that's what he does. And I go, well, a little bit more happened than that. What happened in the beginning? So we'll go back to the beginning, and he'll just read something off here. When Artful started talking, he just literally starts reading it.
Well, okay, so let me...
I could go from here, but for right now, I'm just going to stick to him understanding.
No, I think that's a good place to go forward, and I think that's a good place to stop with him, because that's something he needs.
All right, good.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think we answered pretty much everything about the sequencing, what you're going to do first, second, next, what you hope for him to have done, and then the fact that you're a little bit, I don't want to use the word dumbfounded, but I don't have anything else about how he can read and read beautifully but not remember a lick of what he's doing. So I know that's something that you're dealing with, trying to figure out for him. But other than that, I think we're good to go. What time do you want me to come in tomorrow? When do you start, first of all? I always forget.
I start at
11:20. 10:20? Okay, what time do you want me to come in though?
Maybe 10:50.
Okay. And I'm working on comprehension, and that making sure that you scaffold or support enough. That's what you want me to look for. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. If something comes up in your add it on. All right, thank you. First to do is observe your scaffolding, correct? All right. Why don't on?
I think it went pretty well. I mean, it was obvious that he couldn't tell just reading it straight. Like he. Do you think this reading it this way, where I had the stopping points in, will help you? And he, so it did. He went up to I think a 14.
Okay. One of the things I noticed that you had, and I don't know if that's what you're talking about when you said the rubric, that sheet of paper that you checked off, the retail. I like that. I thought that gave him a real clear.
Exactly. I wanted him to know. Well, we've been working on retails a lot, and he has the I don't know where it went. The retail bookmark, which helps him with the story elements, and I just, he knows he needs to improve on this because he can remember like the setting and characters, but that's like where it ends. Okay. He can tell you a few things. So we're working on first, next, then after that, like the transition.
The time order word things. Okay.
But because when we were reading the chapter book, he read right through the chapter and he's like, no, I don't have any questions. Yeah, no. And then.
So was the question inferring that it was outside the story so that he would not have been able to get the meaning from it from the rest of the reading?
Yeah. It says, what can you infer happened to Josh? Because it says, Brian and his two friends, Josh and Dougie, tried to hypnotize Artful, which is the dog, by dangling a sparkly thing in front of his nose. Suddenly, Josh started acting strange, almost cat-like.
Okay.
So
does it ever tell you what happens to Josh later?
Yes.
So then it's really not inferring if you read it once already. It's more of a in text or a look back almost because he got to read it already once. If he remembered anything, which who knows because of him.
I really wasn't too worried.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's just happy to get him to answer.
And I'm also I try to put in, if something's not right there, because he seems to think, which also came up, that an answer is always right there. So I'm just kind of using that vocabulary.
Sure.
So that he gets used to, using it. And
the language, kind of like that language. All right, there's one other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and then I'll let you look at the scaffolding examples I took from you. So at one point he's reading, and he says a word wrong. And the word's argue. And you want it for him to read it. So you go back and you say, what's this word? And he didn't know, so then you told him. Well, actually, no, you're like, we did this word. He's like, argue.
Yeah.
So why was that one important to you?
It was one of the words that I had pre-taught with him, and he absolutely knew what it meant. And the funny thing is that when he moved the words from onto this chart, he said arg. He could say argument, but I said, and what's the base word? And he said arg. And I go, are you sure it's arg? like a pirate, arg. And he goes, oh, argue. So, but it's funny, he still said that when he was reading it. I thought I found that interesting, actually.
Could you have maybe used context clues since he knew the word, could you have used context clues maybe to have him figure out the answer? Or did you figure with him it was best just to jog his memory?
What do you mean the answer?
The argue. So that
you mean how to say the word?
Yeah, how to say it. Because you definitely didn't give him the answer. You said, oh, come on, we've done this before. So you let him, and he remembered, and he said it. But do you think they're doing context clues? Would he have gotten the answer any better, or do you think it may have been frustrating to him?
You mean just to pronounce it? No, he probably would have.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he probably would.
But he picked it up right away. As soon as you said, we did this before.
As soon as I reminded him, that was when
it was exactly. It was like instant. He's like, argue. And then, he knew it. Okay, was there anything else that that you can reflect on about your QT during this experience?
The only thing is that we've been doing so much questioning and everything, and when he answered a question, it was incorrect, and I said, what? Remember, it was about how he's feeling. Oh, how did Artful feel about Brian's report? And he said happy, and I said, where does it say that? And he said, I don't know, it's in there. I said,
remember.
Well, show me where that is. So he's like, I don't know, I can't find it, but I think he was happy. I said, I said, what are you looking for? And he said, I don't see any words that say how he feels. So he was just scanning for a feeling word.
Yes.
And then I said to him, you can't always do that because not everything is a right there question.
And that was one of my notes too. I thought that was great to tell him, like, they're going to get harder. Right. You need to know this kind of stuff.
And I said the text that you're starting to read won't have all right there questions, and you won't be asked just right there questions. So that made me think about, maybe I've been trying to get to the different question types. So maybe that's what I'll cover tomorrow and the next day.
Okay.
Is, the different types of questions and how to answer them. And
all right, well, real quick, the two scaffolding points, if you can read my handwriting, there was something like, you said, can you answer a question? And he said no. So then you said, well, what should a good reader do? And then he said, go back and reread. So that was scaffolding. You supported him. You reminded him.
And then I even said to him, Alright, so maybe you should try.
Yeah, but then you did.
He knew, but he didn't.
Yeah. And then there was one other one where you had him explain why he should go back and reread, which again, you talked about like for the retelling and it makes it stronger. So that was another scaffolding that I thought you really supported him with. And again, just reiterates, like you said, what a good reader does.
Yeah.
So I thought it went well.
Yeah, okay, good. What is all this?
Oh, that was my notes. Don't worry about that. Yeah. My notes on something else, my scratch.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
No,
right.
just as long as I just, you know, he is an older student. I'm used to working with younger kids, and like I really haven't. I used to teach them a long time ago, this age, but I haven't in so long, and it's so much more in depth.
It totally is.
And their problems run so, like, to me, it seems deeper. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm doing everything I can, and then, you know, I just expect him to do it. Like when I was going to do the, I had to totally revamp from yesterday because I went to do this chapter book, and he's just reading it like, oh yeah, I'm reading the whole thing, and then he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So backing up, and we put the sticky notes all throughout the book, and we did this, and you know, he did well, and he did much better, but he still didn't do as well as I wanted him to.
Well, like you said about older students, I feel like when they're older, they've come up with strategies themselves that may not be the best, but they're working, they're dealing with them. They're at this point, they're young, they're not really coming up with anything because. To be honest with you, up until this point, they probably were reading out loud and quarterly, first and second grade. No one was ever asking them what this reason is, you know, because someone already told them the answer.
Yeah.
So.
I know. Well, we just have to keep going.
Yep, keep going, doing what you do.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, ma'am.